Back-to-back wins for the first time this year in the Flock League, and we are so ready for a playoff push. Here in Week 9, we were able to take down Danny Ladd of the Fantasy Stock Exchange YouTube channel. Quite the big win for us. We put up 134 points. Danny sitting at a round 95. Starting with the quarterbacks, Jackson Dart puts up 27 for us. He has been on an absolute heater recently since he got the starting job. 19, 17, 23, 29, 19, 27. 56 rushing yards this week. He has a rushing touchdown in 5 out of 6 starts. Having that floor of those rushing points is huge. Just like we had with Justin Fields at the beginning of the year, we're going to be riding Jackson Dart into the playoffs here. Across from him was Dak Prescott, who had a fine game on Monday night. The Cardinals defense shut them down for the most part. He puts up 250 yards, but only the 1 touchdown. We had a huge lead going into Monday night. Danny, obviously, with the CD Dak stack, but they were not able to do enough to get over the hump here. At running back, our star man, Devon Achane, 14 for 67, catches 6 receptions for 39 yards as well, puts up 16 points. One of his lower scores on the year, but consistent as ever, and I'm so happy with him as our stud going forward. And then J.K. Dobbins only puts up 7. Again, 15 for 61. Like, he's just 4 yards a carry. Nothing special whatsoever, but no touchdown this week means we're not happy with the performance. A similar story on Danny's side. Derrick Henry, a little underwhelming with no touchdown there on the Thursday night game. And then Bam Knight didn't do much on Monday. It seemed like DeMarcado was getting the vast majority of the carries there. At wide receiver, we start off with Keenan Allen, who we need to have a conversation about going forward. But he only puts up 6 points here, only 5 targets, catches 2 of them for 41 yards. This game against the Titans was weird. The Chargers should have dominated a lot more than they did. And then we had T. Higgins, who I am feeling hella vindicated after the trade that we made, sending Nico Collins away for T. Higgins and Stephon Diggs. Everyone is still way too low on T. Higgins, in my opinion. Since Joe Flacco has come in, the numbers that this guy has put up are utterly ridiculous. Since Joe Flacco came over to the Bengals from the Cleveland Browns, he's played 4 games. In that time, T. Higgins is averaging 19.3 points per game. That's on less than 5 catches, but 80 yards, and he's averaging a touchdown a game. So I do not care if Jamar Chase is going to average 15 targets a game and T. Higgins is only going to average 7. That's perfectly fine with me because the Bengals defense is terrible and they're going to continue to have to score 40 to try and win games. I think they're the first team in NFL history to score 38 points at least in back-to-back weeks and go 0-2. This defense is historically bad. They traded away a linebacker today on the trade deadline. So I expect nothing but this to continue for T. Higgins. He's on bye next week, but then after that, it is wheels up. On Danny's side, the combination of CD and Justin Jefferson can't even put up as many points as T. Higgins did. 15 and 16 from them respectively. Pedestrian games for their standards. And then at tight end, a bit of a sad matchup here. George Kittle, 7 points. We need Brock Purdy back so badly. I mean, Mac Jones just isn't really looking to him. He has a fine floor with 4 targets, but 32 yards only. It's just not good enough. And I do genuinely believe that Brock Purdy coming back would fix a lot of these issues. On Danny's side, Tucker Kraft unfortunately tears his ACL. He had Colston Loveland on the bench, didn't play him. So he's going to be all right having Loveland going forward, but that just sucks for Kraft. In the middle of his breakout, tearing his ACL, ending up with only 4 points here. At the flex spots, we started Debo and Stephon Diggs. Both of them fine. Debo just under 10 points. Diggs just about 13. Debo is going to be a tough one that we'll have to talk about going forward with no Jaden Daniels. For Stephon Diggs, he keeps on getting in the end zone. He's not as involved as I would like, but he's a fine flex play. On Danny's side, 2 guys below 10 points in Tajay Spears and Jordan Addison. Our kicker came up big, 12 points to Danny's 3. And then the Jacksonville defense wasn't really able to limit Geno Smith the way I wanted them to. They allow 29 points. They do get 2 sacks and interceptions, so they end up on 3. Danny's Patriots end up on 2 points. That was about even. But in the end, we take it by about 40 points this week. Really happy with the performance. And things of note on the bench, not a whole lot. Torrey Horton, who we stashed, had a big game, 4 catches, 48 yards, and 2 touchdowns. But then the Seahawks just traded for Rashid Shaheed, so that looks a little sad. in terms of his outlook as a stash here. Rashid Shaheed is going to take a lot of those snaps, the same thing that Torrey Horton does. Maybe he takes a little while to adjust, that being Shaheed, and Horton can potentially be a breakout here in the second half, but it looks worse now with that trade. Other than that, Jordan Mason still getting a good amount of carries here. Obviously, he ends up with less than 5 points in this matchup, and Aaron Jones did look good. I do think Jordan Mason is still somebody who we could, in a desperate situation, throw into our flex. It would have to be a good matchup, of course. And then Christian Watson, 2 for 58. Not that encouraging, but the Packers lose Tucker Kraft, and Matthew Golden is also hurt. And Christian Watson is continuing to ramp up. He's getting more and more involved. I do like his prospects for the rest of the year. But that is all for our Week 9 matchup. We do end up taking the dub by about 40 points, and let's see where that leaves us in the standings. Looking at the standings here, this week went about as perfect as it possibly could. The two top teams in Sal and Mason both get wins, moving to 8-1 and 7-2 respectively. But all the teams around us lost. Avery lost to move to 5-4. Bush lost to move to 5-4. We won to move to 5-4, obviously. And then Dev Rowe, Thomas the editor, and Danny, who we beat, all dropped to 4-5. So we are now tied for third place, only in fifth based on points scored. Really happy to be in this position. We have some really important matchups against Nathan and Avery coming up these next 2 weeks, guys that are very close to us in the standings. But I'm feeling really good about getting one of these non-bye playoff spots. We're in a nice little position here. Let's check out what we did on waivers. All right, on waivers this week, Zach loses Jaden Daniels, unfortunately, so he has to pick up Matthew Stafford, spends $16 on him, wanted to make sure he got him. Danny picks up Blake Corum. Thomas picks up Joe Flacco, which I really like for him. I was eyeing him for next week when Jackson Dart has a difficult matchup. Flacco is going on bye. Maybe Thomas didn't realize that, and he'll drop him, and I'll be able to pick him up, but that's a good pickup for sure. I picked up Nick Chubb, who we'll talk about as somebody who I might have to start a few times down the stretch here. Spent $5 to get him on the roster. Nick gets the Panthers defense. Thomas adds Mark Andrews. Mason gets his Josh Jacobs handcuff. Zach picks up JJ McCarthy as a stash there. Bush gets the Jets defense, who just traded all of their good players on deadline day. Badaki picks up the Steelers. Danny gets Malik Washington. Badaki swaps kickers. And Badaki gets Dalton Schultz for his tight end. No big names on waivers this week. This league is pretty damn sharp, and you're not going to have these Kyle Monangai types out there right now. Those guys are all already rostered, so not much to report. Let's check out our Week 10 matchup. All right, in Week 10, we are facing off against Nathan. Our first matchup against the Domain guys. We'll be playing them in Week 10, and then I have Avery in Week 11. Nathan coming off a big win, going to 4-5. He obviously makes that big Puka trade that everybody hated. That seems to be working out for him pretty well. But starting with our quarterbacks, I'm riding with Jackson Dart against Chicago, who Joe Flacco just put up 470 on. Nathan is running with Baker Mayfield, who he's been running with all year against the Patriots. It's a whatever matchup. Hopefully Dart can outscore him. At running back, on Thursday night, we have Mr. J.K. Dobbins in a good matchup against the Raiders. We need a touchdown. With J.K. Dobbins, it's been rough as of late. No touchdowns since week 5, which means he's only gone over 10 fantasy points once since then. The RB2 situation on this team is kind of rough. I think I'll get into that more after we talk about the matchup here. RB1, obviously, nothing to discuss. Devon Achane against Buffalo, who have been a bit of a run funnel this year so far. So excited for a big score there. Nathan is definitely starting Jalen Warren, but his RB2 is a big question mark. Right now in this spot, as I'm recording this, he has Kareem Hunt in there, who is on bye. Obviously, that's not going to work for him. He's hoping for Trey Benson. I don't know if there's any update on him, but he is eligible to be activated off the IR this week. Hopefully, he just needs another week of rest. One more week, make it a nice 6 weeks that he's been off, and he can come back in week 11, and then Nathan would have to add somebody off of waivers who he does not currently have to put in his RB2 spot. At wide receiver for us this week, it is a little rough. T. Higgins is on bye, who is our wide receiver 1. We also have some assets at wide receiver who have lost tremendous value just over the past weekend. Stephon Diggs is in there. We're playing him against Tampa Bay. And then we move over to Deebo Samuel, who, without Jaden Daniels, his prospects do not look nearly as good. He had one good game with Marcus Mariota, And if Terry McLaurin is going to miss more time, he's still the number one option there. I'm just worried. This offense can't run the ball. They can't really throw the ball with Marcus Mariota. And so the touchdown opportunities likely won't be there very much. And how much production is Debo going to be able to put up in an offense that struggles to move the ball? This week, it's a no-brainer to play him, really, based on the other options that we have. But I don't feel great about him going forward. Nathan has Garrett Wilson, who should be back from that injury this weekend against Cleveland. Cleveland, a decently good defense. Hopefully they can shut him down. And then he has Wandale, who is kind of countering my Jackson Dart a little bit. Hopefully Dart focuses on maybe Darius Slayton, Theo Johnson this game. Stay away from Wandale. That'd be good. At tight end, I have George Kittle. I'm throwing him back out there. I'm praying for Brock Purdy to be back. Kyle Shanahan said that he wasn't really that close to playing in Week 9. That's not good. But I can't sit George Kittle down. I mean, maybe it's the smart thing to do if Mac Jones is playing, but then if he blows up, I'll just feel like an idiot. So I'm going to start him, and hopefully Brock Purdy's back. If not, hopefully a touchdown. Nathan recently traded for Jake Ferguson, who he is not going to have this week, and he did not add a tight end yet. I guess he's waiting to decide on that. He didn't want to get one on the first round of waivers. I'm not sure what the play is there, but he's going to need to add somebody. And then at the flex spots, I'll start with Keenan Allen. This is very worrisome. Keenan Allen had been playing anywhere from 55 to 75% of the snaps so far this year. His lowest target total was 7 in any of the first 7 weeks. And in the past 2 weeks, he's fallen to 25 and 37% of the snaps with only 5 targets in both of those games. Trey Harris is getting more involved. Oronde Gadsden has obviously broken out a little bit here. It's looking rough. I'm quietly trying to move him this week. A few of the creators seem to still be in on him. So if I can move him for an asset that isn't trending in the wrong direction like Keenan is here, that would be great. I mean, he's 33 years old. I shouldn't take this 25 and 37% of the snaps as a blip here. This probably is a trend. But if I don't move him, I'll have to start him, and he has a good matchup against the Pittsburgh Steelers at home Sunday Night Football. I still think even with this snap total, it could be a Keenan game. He seems to be getting schemed up. He's still involved. He's the short area target. Reliable third down option type for Justin Herbert. And the Chargers just lost Joe Alt for the rest of the year. So this offensive line is beat up. They're going to have to get the ball out quick. Keenan is good for that. So maybe there's a few big games for him left this year, but I am going to be trying to move him this week. And then currently in the other flex spot, we have Christian Watson. Now, Ricky Pearsall has missed 5 weeks, wasn't placed on the IR. Obviously, the knee injury is worse than they thought it was, but hopefully he's back this week. I don't want to play Christian Watson. My other options on the bench are Torrey Horton, who I'm not excited about with Shaheed showing up. Nick Chubb against Jacksonville. Don't love it. Jordan Mason against Baltimore. It's not terrible, but they're going to have to throw in that game because the Ravens are going to put up points, so I don't love that. And then Jerry Jeudy against the Jets, who I just stashed because the Browns changed play callers, and maybe this guy decides to just pepper Jerry Jeudy with targets. I don't know. I thought it was worth a shot to see. And they're playing the Jets this week, who just traded Sauce Gardner. So maybe that's a fine matchup. Regardless, I really hope it's just Ricky Pearsall. If Brock Purdy and Ricky Pearsall are both back this week and I can just enjoy the Niners and all of their glory, that would be incredible. That's what I'm praying for this week. Pray for Brock Purdy and Ricky Pearsall with me, please. The flex spots for Nathan Puka Nacua. Yikes, scary, obviously. What are you going to do? He had that chest injury that he was out of the game on Sunday a little bit for, but he seems to be fine. And then Jameson Williams, who I was actually trying to acquire from him last week. Over the bye, the Lions coaching staff was saying that there's certain players in their offense who haven't been involved, who they would like to get involved more. Totally obvious that they were talking about Jameson. His first game, he scores a touchdown, 60 yards. I really like Jameson rest of season, and so I'm a little scared to be playing against him this week. He can have a 25-point blow-up game any week. Kickers will skip over, and then the defense is currently, I picked up the Seattle Seahawks on Sunday. They are playing the Arizona Cardinals. Brissett or Kyler, I'm not really worried. They can put up a big score against either of those guys. A really solid unit. And Nathan is riding again with the Baltimore Ravens at Minnesota, which is not as good. Maybe he switches it up. That matchup wouldn't be one that I'd be targeting. Obviously, J.J. McCarthy looked pretty good. The Ravens defense is still a little beat up. And then on the bench, obviously he has Trey Benson, who could end up starting and be slotting into his running back slot. Michael Carter, not of note. And then Darnell Mooney and Alec Pierce in the same Germany game. Alec Pierce has been quietly really good this year. He might end up throwing him in his lineup. I don't love those overseas games, especially for somebody like Alec Pierce who relies on like long, deep passes. Those European games are always really yucky. So even if Nathan does put him in, hopefully he has a quiet day. This is a really big matchup for us to move to 6-4 and to sort of push down a competitor who's gunning for one of these playoff spots would be really, really big. Imagine winning 3 games in a row in this economy. Incredible. But before I get out of here, I want to kind of just do a little overview of the team, check in with where we stand currently. Like I said last week, I want you guys to be inputting your ideas into the chat. I want help from the fans. This is the team of the fans. Like I said, it's not just my team, it is all of our teams, and I could use some help managing it here. Starting at quarterback, I'm happy with Jackson Dart. I'm going to start him in 75% of matchups, and then in the really bad ones, I'll try and find a streamer that might be better. Tight end, it'll take a few more weeks of George Kittle being really bad for me to consider making a move anywhere else. He has a bye in week 14. We'll have to find somebody. But as for now, especially with Brock Purdy looking like he should be back very soon, tight end we don't really need to talk about. Running back, obviously we have Devon Achane. Currently on the roster, we have J.K. Dobbins, Jordan Mason, and Nick Chubb. All guys who aren't that great, who you play in a good matchup and you hope for 12 points, right? I promise you, I have been trying so hard to find a running back. Nobody wants to move running backs in this league. They're hard to come by. Few teams have more than 3 options that you can start. I am going to continue trying to find a longer term solution at RB2, but as of now, we're sort of just going to have to try and platoon the position. This week, J.K. Dobbins against the Raiders is absolutely fine. I've sort of looked ahead at all the matchups coming up to see who could slot in for us at that RB2 spot to try and maximize our upside week to week. Next week, week 11, Jordan Mason is playing against the Bears. Could be a good matchup. Nick Chubb is against the Titans. Definitely a good matchup. One of those guys should be able to slot into our RB2 slot. I think the Broncos are playing the Chiefs, which is why I don't love the Dobbins play. In week 12, it's very, very dicey. Achane and Dobbins both go on bye. Okay, so currently on our roster, Chubb against Buffalo, good matchup, and Mason against Green Bay. Not very good, but Rico Dowdle just ran for 120. Obviously, Mason is splitting with Aaron Jones. It's not great, but I might not have a choice. Week 13 at RB2, Dobbins against Washington, a good matchup. Week 14, Dobbins is back against the Raiders, which is also good. 15, Jordan Mason is playing the Cowboys, which we really like. 16, Jordan Mason against the Giants, which we like. And then 17, they all have bad matchups, and we'll just have to figure it out. But I'm sort of just trying to platoon this. If you guys see, like, I have looked at the Seattle running backs, Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet, maybe try and trade for those. Maybe one of them gets a bigger role. Maybe one gets injured. That's an idea. At this point in the season, it's going to be really difficult, especially with the assets that I have. I don't have a huge name wide receiver to trade for a big running back. I just don't have that. So I'm working with these lower level guys. I talked to Zach about Ramondre, who he just acquired from Sal. That's not in a Flock League video yet, but they just made a move. Kamara for Ramondre, straight up gross, I know. But I kind of like Ramondre rest of season. I talked to Zach, but he doesn't want to trade a running back for a wide receiver. And nobody really wants to do that. So it's difficult. But if you guys see, you can see all the teams on the My Teams page on flockfantasy.com. You can see the Flock League there. If you see any ideas, let me know in the comments. I am open to anything. At wide receiver for us, it's a little tough, right? Because we have T. Higgins, who's good long-term. And then it's just a bunch of dudes. Diggs, who has been fine, but not very involved. Debo, his value just declined with Jaden Daniels out for the year, probably. Keenan, losing snaps. Christian Watson, might be nothing. Torrey Horton was looking good. Rashid Shaheed is there now. Jerry Jeudy, probably a bum. Ricky Pearsall, hurt. Who knows when he's coming back? So I think with those guys, we can manage to put together 2 wide receivers, 2 flexes every week, and I feel comfortable with that. But I'm trying to move Keenan every week. Outside of that, if there are any wide receivers that you guys like rest of season that you think are being undervalued, again, let me know in the comments. I would love to hear from you. So that is where the fan wagon is at heading into week 10. Really happy to have you guys along for the ride. 2 dubs in a row for the first time this year. Winning streak has started. Let's hope it doesn't end. Thank you all so much for watching. Hit the like on this video if you are enjoying them. Get it pushed out to all the people that love fantasy football content and the Flock League. Hit the subscribe so you see the video next week and every other video that I make. And if you like Dynasty Fantasy Football, I am doing a weekly podcast with a good friend of mine. It's called the Dynasty Arsenal. I will link it in the description. We're talking strategy, rankings, player takes, all that kind of good stuff. If you're looking for some in-season Dynasty content, casual conversational stuff, check that out. It's a really good show. Thank you guys so much for watching. Good luck to all of you this weekend, and I will see you in week 11.